Ready. Hello. In December 2022, big news shocked the ROS community. ROS was acquired by Intrinsic. In this episode of the Robotics Insider, we are going to discuss what actually happened and why. What can this mean for the future of ROS? And why does it matter for the ROS community? All those points and more on the first episode of the Robotics Insider podcast. Yes, hello everyone. Welcome to the Robotics Insider podcast. And this is a podcast that we are launching today in order to discuss about all the important news and important things that are happening around the world of robotics and how would they affect the robotics industry and the future that we have with robotics ahead. And in order to discuss those ideas, those news, those things that are important for us, I have here a team of other collaborators. We have here Alberto and Rodrigo.
Hello, everybody. A pleasure to be here on this very first episode of the Robotics Insider podcast. So yeah, let's have a good time.
Yes.
And hi guys, I'm Rodrigo. I'm a developer here, and yeah, I'm also excited to have interesting conversations about what's happening in the world of robotics.
Great. And first thing that I would like to start discussing in this podcast is about what is Intrinsic. What is the company that has acquired all those these properties? So what can you tell us about this, Rodrigo?
Right. So what I've been able to look up and find out in my research is that Intrinsic is a robotics software company, right? And then the main point that I took away from their goal is that they're trying to make industrial robotics more accessible and easier to use, right? So they're trying to connect really technical robotics companies with other companies that try to use an industrial robot for whatever application, manufacturing. And then through the use of a platform, I keep reading, and interfaces, they say. So that's what their goal is. I know that Intrinsic also came out of, at least in the beginning, of the company X, which is an organization that started out as Google X, right? So Google X started trying to put together different types of projects, and one of them was Intrinsic. Now, Google X became X after the restructuring of Google into Alphabet. Right? So I think this was like 2015, 2016, something like that. And Intrinsic came out of that, I think. And now they're an independent company that's just bought ROS.
Yeah. Okay, we are going to clarify about the term of bought ROS.
Right, yes.
But let me read the words of Wendy Tan, who is the CEO of Intrinsic, and she describes the company as follows. So we aim to build a platform that connects the providers of automation hardware and software with businesses who need custom manufacturing solutions. With intuitive software, AI-enabled solution development, and a scalable infrastructure, more people will be able to build, design, and deploy robotic applications to solve problems in ways they couldn't before. So it's going into the direction that you are mentioning, and also she adds, make industrial robot programming available, highly effective, a highly effective option for non-experts.
Right. What kind of comes to mind when I hear this relating to other robots I've seen is, for example, the universal robots use a tablet that is an interface for operators and things like that. So you can program that robot without having to, know a whole lot about robotics.
Exactly.
So I think they're trying to convert that, but for everything, right? Yeah. For all robots. So
yes. Well, they are concentrating on industrial robots so
right,
far.
Sorry.
That's what they say on the web page. So that's what we know.
Yeah.
And then what you are mentioning now, it implies that they are trying to make it easy for both the developers, but also for the users, the final users, right?
Yeah.
It goes on this direction. Okay.
Yeah, I think from what I've read also, that not only this, but they are trying to also combine all the industrial robotics with AI in order to be able to solve very complex problems, because I think that we all can agree that robots of the future have to be able to learn by themselves and take decisions by themselves.
Right.
Otherwise, we are going nowhere. So I think that this is kind of also aligned with their goal to bring together AI into these industrial robotic solutions.
And that makes a lot of sense because you have mentioned, Rodrigo, that Intrinsic became independent from X. Still is an Alphabet company. It still is an Alphabet company, but it's not Google, but it's another Alphabet company. And then they became separated from X in 2021. And then in 2022, they acquire a company that at the beginning of 2022, in May, they acquire a company that is called Vicarious, which is what you were mentioning, Alberto. Is a company using AI to automate tasks that are too complex in order to be automated with traditional means, traditional ways. So that goes in the direction that you say. So that it looks like this other Vicarious company was already an expert in this subject, which is the usage of AI in order to provide better solutions to more complicated automation problems. So they acquired this one, and then in December of 2022, they acquire the Open Source Robotics Corporation, which is the business part of Open Robotics.
Right.
Okay.
So it's two separate sort of entities.
Which ones?
OS, Open Robotics Foundation, and Open Robotics Corporation.
Oh, yes. We need to clarify this.
Right.
We need to clarify that. But before going into to clarify this, let me say that the title of this podcast, which says ROS has been acquired by Google. So first is wrong in one sense. It's wrong in two senses. The first one is that Google did not acquire ROS. But the company that is involved in the acquisition is Intrinsic. So Google doesn't matter here, let's say. I mean, both of them, they are part of the Alphabet conglomerate, of course.
Right.
Yeah,
So that's where the confusion comes from.
Yeah. So what some of the ROS developers out there, they are confused because they say Intrinsic, oh, Google.
Right.
So I mean, they think, okay, Intrinsic, Alphabet is Google. So Google bought this. So that's the wrong link. Okay. So let's clarify this first. So is Intrinsic the company that is involved in the acquisition of Open Source Robotics Corporation? But we have talked about Open Source Robotics Corporation, Open Robotics, and the people out there still doesn't understand the structure of Open Robotics. Can you explain us, Alberto, the structure?
Yeah, so let's try to clarify this point, and let's try to explain it in simple terms. So let's say that we have Open Robotics, which is the company behind ROS, Gazebo, and other technologies. But so Open Robotics is the company behind ROS, and we can say that Open Robotics is basically divided into two branches. One is the Open Source Robotics Foundation, which holds the the intellectual property, the royalties, the ownership of ROS, of the code of ROS, also Gazebo, also Turtlebot, also ROSCON, for instance, OpenRMF, and all these technologies. So the intellectual property belongs to the Open Source Robotics Foundation. Which is a non-profit company.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then there is the other branch, which is the Open Source Robotics Corporation, which this one, it is for profit. So they are also behind the development and maintenance of ROS, but they are also working very close to companies, to the industry, doing projects for them, and trying to also doing all this business with the industry so that they also can get some kind of income and use it for the development of ROS.
Yeah, exactly.
And so what Intrinsic has actually bought is this commercial branch, this Open Source Robotics Corporation.
Open Source Corporation. Okay, very
And this corporation, as a last point, we can also say that it is divided into other two sub-branches.
Okay.
One which is based on California and the States, and the other one in Singapore.
Okay. Then, so let's clarify. There is Open Robotics in one side.
Yeah.
And then we have Open Source Robotics Foundation and Open Source Robotics Corporation, which includes the one in California and Singapore.
Yeah, we can say one is non-profit.
The foundation is non-profit.
Yeah, and the other one is...
Yes, and the corporation is the one for profit that they do the project and so on. So what Intrinsic has acquired is the Open Source Robotics Corporation, the corporation part of Open Robotics. The foundation part is not. Right. And the foundation part is the one that has the IP of ROS and all the other associated products, Gazebo, OpenRMF, Turtlebot, and so on.
So sort of what I understand a little bit, and I might be wrong about this, so in the chat, if you guys notice that we say something wrong, you guys can talk about it. But what I understand is that before this acquisition, maybe the Open Source Robotics Corporation and Foundation, they were sort of intermingled, or not intermingled, but people that worked in the corporation also did things for the foundation, and I think this acquisition sort of is making it more separate. That's my impression.
Yes. Yeah. So definitely yes, because I think that for corporation and foundation, maybe the guys from one that have the contract from one or the other, they were working on the same room. I mean, right. But now the people that is from the corporation, they have moved into Intrinsic, into the new offices, I don't know, Google headquarters, whatever it is there. Sorry, not Google, sorry. Sorry, it's Intrinsic offices.
I read that it's close by, but it's not. It's not. Mountain View, I think.
Okay. Great. And yeah, so we have a lot of comments on the chat.
Yeah, so just to clarify that this is an important point. So Intrinsic has not really bought ROS. So the intellectual property still belongs to the Open Source Robotics Foundation.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's the point that I wanted to clarify right now, is what has Intrinsic actually acquired. And you have mentioned Intrinsic has acquired the Open Source Robotics Corporation and the one from Open Source Robotics Corporation Singapore. So both of them. So let's say the corporation part.
Yeah, the commercial sector of Open Robotics, as Ashai Goli is saying in the chat. I like that. So the commercial branch of Open Robotics is the one that they have
bought.
Yeah.
Okay. So what that means is that ROS, Gazebo, ROSCON, OpenRMF, and Turtlebot are not part of the sale. So they remain part of Open Source Robotics Foundation, of the foundation, and do not belong to Intrinsic. Then at this point, we have to say that the title of this podcast is completely wrong, because we were asking, has Google bought ROS? So first, it's nothing related to Google. It's just Intrinsic. And second, they have not bought ROS. They have acquired the Open Source Robotics Foundation, and that doesn't include the IP of ROS.
The corporation.
Yes,
Which is still open source. So
is still open source.
I see a question from Dan Bex. Will ROS 2 still be open source? Yes, it will be. So you'll be able to install it whenever, and you don't have to pay
At
for
least
it.
the core of it. We'll get later into more deeper discussions on this, but at least the core is going to remain open source,
Yes. Then, but wait, we still haven't answered yet what has Intrinsic actually acquired. Because you say, okay, you have acquired the corporation part. Yeah, but what does it mean? What does it mean? So the tables or what is included? And I have been searching about this subject, but still don't have it very, very clear what this includes. As long as I know is that they are getting the team that has been developing and maintaining ROS and during the last 10 days. So what they are acquiring is the know-how about ROS, not ROS itself, the IP, but the know-how. So the people that know how to do the things, how ROS works in the inside, really. And of course, the current projects and businesses that they have, that the corporation has. So that, as long as I know, that's the point that they have acquired.
Yeah, and also they have acquired, as you say, the know-how, the knowledge of this team, of the corporation, which has been working and developing ROS for many years. So they have a really good knowledge about that. But also, it's the team which has been in contact, in touch, more closely with the industry. They have been collaborating with companies, doing projects for them. So they also have the knowledge of how ROS can be used and can be applied into the industry.
That's a very good point.
Which is one of the goals of Intrinsic.
Of Intrinsic, yeah. Yeah. So acquiring all those people can be a boost in their know-how and know how to do things in order to have a successful platform, right?
Yeah, and I would assume that this means that they plan to use in some sort of fashion ROS or ROS 2 in whatever platform they're building. I don't know if it'll be a main component or it'll be a tool only, but you can only assume that they're trying to introduce ROS and sort of how to interface with it with this platform that they claim to be building.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we don't know if their platform is ROS based,
right? That's another thing.
Or is just ROS is just one alternative that can be used if they have their own framework or they are planning to create other frameworks. Not create, to if they have already created one, maybe because they have been there in working in robotics inside the Alphabet group for many years. Maybe they have created their own framework, or maybe they are going to adapt another one that exists there, not only ROS.
Yeah, I would really like to know more about this.
Yes.
But I have been searching and there's nothing out there about what they are doing. Not their goal, but actually what they are developing. What is the product that they are going to deliver and so on. I don't know if maybe somebody in the audience has some information and they can reveal it here. If revealing it is going to cost you your life, don't do it. But if not, let us know.
Yes, we would like to know exactly. Great. Then let's continue. Then the reason. So we have already answered the next question more or less. So the next question is why they are buying it, right? Let me see if we can add something that we have missed here.
Yeah, so here it's more, we can actually, so we don't really know the answer to this. So we are going to discuss, maybe show our point of view. But
yeah, and based on what we have read on the articles that have been released and the interview on the IEEE spectrum interview, so then the response from Intrinsic is that it's not. They never say it about what we mentioned about getting the know-how. They don't say this.
Right.
This is
our speculation.
Is our reasoning for that. Their response is basically that they want to democratize robotics and making simpler to build robot applications. But in my opinion, that doesn't answer the question. So why buying Open Source Robotics Foundation is going to help democratize robotics?
And
why?
Also, having something already open source is sort of already an attempt of democratizing something. So I don't know if this means that they'll make it open source squared or something, maybe or make it more available for people or something. And I mean, there could be some downsides, I believe, but again, we don't really know until it happens. So I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, when they say democratize, my understanding is that they mean to allow other people that is not a specific engineer.
Like
so like now everybody can do an app for a phone. That is very, very simple. Not everybody, but just you don't need to. Okay, well, you can do it in 2 days. You can do it, or a web page, for example. Anybody can do that.
Like the Squarespace for robots. Yeah. Squarespace is a website building platform. So you sign up for Squarespace is called, and you can no ad for them, but you can make a website like that really easily without having to go into the code of it.
Yes.
Kind of grab a block and put it here.
Yeah. So when they say democratize, my understanding is that they mean this. So people will be able to create applications for robotics without having to know about the PID values or how to calibrate the camera with the robot, and why the path planning is not planning around the obstacle, something like that.
Right.
Yeah, so in some years, this means that maybe we can see my mom creating
programming a robot. Yeah, seriously.
Okay. Yes. Interesting, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, my mom always complains that my dad leaves the pantry door open when he goes in to grab a snack or something. She always tells me, son, you should build me a robot that closes the door. Maybe you'll be able to do this in a couple of years.
Okay, great. Then, so we have been discussing why Intrinsic is maybe interested on buying and the corporation, but then the other question is, why is Open Robotics interested on selling?
Right.
What do you think?
Well, there are a couple of reasons off the top of my head. One of them is they don't have any more money, or they're trying to, restructure how the resources come in or something. And again, I come back to this, and I might be wrong, but I feel like it's this push to separate this corporation and foundation. So the corporation would be in charge of dealing with businesses, and the foundation with just the core. So maybe this acquisition facilitates that, maybe. But that's just my opinion, and again, it could be wrong.
Yeah, so I think that more or less we can conclude from what we have been saying already that the goals of Intrinsic and Open Robotics, in this case maybe Open Source Robotics Corporation, are to bring robotics and ROS robotics, let's say, closer to the industry and make them available for more people. So we could say that the goals are similar. They go in the same direction, and I feel like, this is an opinion, that maybe Intrinsic arrived to the conclusion that in order to do this, they need to give a push to some of the current technologies related to ROS. And by acquiring the corporation, Open Source Robotics Corporation, they are going to be able to put more focus into what really is needed to have a more robust product that which is more suitable for the industry standards.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes sense.
And what do you think, Ricardo?
Okay, so what I think is what I have read from the interviews, the different interviews and the questions that they have been published, and then I would like to read about this. What Brian Gerke, who was the former CEO of Open Robotics, now is at Intrinsic with another charge. So he stated on one of the websites that the robotics industry has grown tremendously in size and complexity, and it needs for reliable open source software continues to grow. Okay. Somehow the sentence here is something strange. Well, at the same time, it has become increasingly challenging for the foundation as a small organization to meet the diverse needs of such a large and growing user community. So the foundation could not simultaneously restructure to a more durable governance model while continuing to service the corporation's customer commitments. And then he continues that Intrinsic is the ideal home for the corporation, where our team will have a greater ability to improve ROS, Gazebo, and OpenRMF so that they can be used in even more domains with ever higher demands for software quality testing and platform support. So again, by summarizing what he said here, is it happens like the ROS system has become so big that and so complex that it's very, very difficult to be managed by the Open Robotics alone. So they need to separate somehow and restructure into a new structure, different organization that supports the maintenance of ROS and the evolution of ROS.
Right.
Yeah, so something similar like what happens to Linux when it was started as a project from one guy, Linus Torvald, then some other people join it and so on. But at some point in time, they had to create this Linux Foundation, which is in charge of maintaining and keeping the development of Linux. So there is no company behind it. There are several companies, many companies and other people inside the foundation that do it. And then the reason why Open Robotics is selling is because they couldn't maintain this, and they needed to restructure into going into the kind of Linux foundation, or so let's say the ROS foundation, something like that, or well, they not the ROS foundation, they call it the Open Source Robotics Foundation. Yeah. That's it. So they have already the foundation done. And then, well, the point that is not clear to me is why, so it's not clear to me why going into Intrinsic is going to help to do this transition. Okay,
right.
That's the point that I don't see clear. Why selling the corporation into Intrinsic is going to facilitate this point? It could be because by going into there, the corporation goes into Intrinsic. So Intrinsic can be one of the first members of the foundation and then inject a lot of man time or money in order to keep doing and maintaining. So that could be one of the reasons why. So then in this case, that would be go into what you were mentioning, right? That the Open Robotics and Intrinsic, they are aligned in the ideas of what they are thinking in the future. So they go into Intrinsic, the foundation is created with the help and with the structure of Intrinsic.
Right. So Intrinsic then is a supporter of the foundation. They don't own it, but they support it.
Yes. It will be one of the supporters, but I think that it may play a crucial role
in deciding?
Right now, in this transition time in which ROS is no longer being maintained by Open Robotics itself, but with this new structure, which is the foundation, which includes some external actors. It must include external actors because it's impossible to maintain by only the people inside the Open Robotics. Then by going into Intrinsic, I don't know, because we don't know the terms, but it looks by what has been said is that Intrinsic is going to ensure some time, and it's going to provide time for training people and also for developing some of the parts of ROS during the next months, and we don't know for how long and so on. But it will be this push made by Intrinsic in order to start this new structure. So, and then in the meantime, the foundation will have to work into attracting more members. I don't know, so not organizing. So when Intrinsic is not dedicating this special time to this, then there will be more other companies, more other members. I don't know. That just thinking about it.
Yeah. So I think that Intrinsic and in the posts that I have been reading and so on, they say that they are going to ensure that the core components of ROS are maintained and so on. So this is going to continue like this. But of course, they are going to also try to put the focus into what they think is important, is more important, which probably at this point is all the connection of ROS with the industry. Yeah, so I strongly believe that they are going to put the focus into this more than maybe other things, which could be also important.
Like then what, for example? What do you mean? What, the connection within industrial? And then you mean to other things?
Yeah, so one of the things...
like for researchers or universities?
Yeah, exactly.
Like that?
Yeah, exactly. So because we all have had the feeling in ROS 1 and at the beginning of ROS 2 that some of the things that are being developed are not robust enough to be considered for the industry standards. Yeah. So this is a point that I think that it's going to get addressed in the close future, to try to make things robust first and then more accessible. Because another thing is that right now, especially in ROS 2, if you want to do things, you have to really know a lot of what's going on behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. So they're going to, I think that the focus of Intrinsic right now, and then also of the members of the old OSRC, the corporation. Yeah, is going to be focused a lot in this, in making ROS more robust and more industry friendly, and also more available and accessible for everybody. Then, as for the regular book fixing and the maintenance of all the repos and so on. So what you were saying, I totally agree. So what the foundation is going to have to do, because the foundation, as far as I know, they are still going to be deciding the roadmap.
Yes.
The roadmap to be following. So as to what things are more important to be developed, to be maintained, to move forward, etc. So they are going to have to kind of look for people, for external people that help them in this task.
As members of the foundation.
As members of the foundation, yeah, because they are losing an important part of the team. Of the team, yeah.
Well, so what I can say is the words that were written by Tuli Foot, who is the former ROS platform manager of Open Robotics. So it was before the acquisition. And he indicates that some things don't change. ROS 2 Iron, Arwini, will ship next May on the World Turtle Day. And Gazebo H will ship next September. Okay, so that's what he says. And then also Brian Gerke states that at Intrinsic, I'll be leading the former corporation team, working directly with the CEO of Intrinsic, Wendy Tan White. We will be contributing open source software to the community, continuing to work with our existing customers, and also building valuable new types of tools, products, and services for commercial customers with and on top of our open source tools. With and on top of our open source tools. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
With all this, what I would like to sort of know is what they're focusing on, right? So for me, for someone that we use ROS a lot, what are they going to be working on that we can then use in some time? Let's say, are they going to work on, like you said, for getting it ready for an industrial setting? Are they going to do something with testing? Because I know ROS is notoriously bad with doing set tests that you do in another software company. Or are they going to focus on, robot networks, how they communicate with each other in different machines, things like that? Because it was a big switch between ROS and ROS 2 about this. I would like to know so we can use this, right? So there's a point when, they talk about in generic terms of what their goal is, but you don't really know exactly what they're doing, and I feel like it's important to keep it in the spirit of open source and
openness.
Openness. They're stating it. They're trying to democratize it. So,
let us know.
Let us know. Don't keep it a secret.
Yes, exactly. Well, there are 2 points here. One of the point is about how the new releases are going to be maintained. So the release of ROS to
Irwin or something.
Yeah, Irwin,
I haven't even
exactly.
seen the name of it.
And Gazebo H and so on. So they are going to be done and maintained, because if the main amount of people that they were developing this at the corporation, they have left to Intrinsic. So what we understand is that they are going to continue, even if at Intrinsic, doing this. But somehow the maths doesn't
add up.
Yeah, somehow. Because either they dedicate some time, fixed time, to do this, to develop only on ROS to Irwin and other releases, and dedicate only to that in order to accomplish the deadlines, or if they have to do other work at Intrinsic, like developing the platform or doing other projects.
Right.
So I don't know, and we don't know. So here, the only thing that we know is what they have said, that they are going to. Mm-hmm. They are going to. So that's what they say. So then that is what the official declaration. But we would like to know more. So if you know more, then we'll be happy to know here.
Yeah. So my opinion here, and this is totally my opinion, I have no idea about, no certain idea or basic idea on it, is that Intrinsic is trying to build some kind of layer or applications that are going to go on top of ROS.
Exactly.
Yeah,
like an API.
Or a complete application.
Right. Yeah.
Which is going to be able to be used in the industry, and it's going to have very nice GUIs, interfaces, as you were saying, from the Universal Robot interfaces that you use to move the robot and so on. Well, so they are going to build something which is going to be on a layer on top of ROS. Yeah, this is my guess. Okay, mm-hmm. So here I'm completely guessing. Yeah, then in order to be able to develop this, they need to first have a core which is working properly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they are going to have to still be developing and making sure that the core of ROS 2 in this case, it's good, it's robust, it's stable, and it moves forward. It keeps constantly updated. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because otherwise their applications are going to get behind very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then in this sense, they are going to have to be forced to keep an eye to the core ROS development. And on parallel of this, they're going to be developing their own applications for Intrinsic and so on, which my guess is that they're going to go on top of ROS. And I'm going to throw a bomb here.
Okay.
You'll probably have to pay for it.
And maybe that is not going to be open source.
Yes. Okay.
So ROS 2, I have seen many comments there in the chat asking if ROS 2 is going to be free. So we think that ROS 2 is going to be free still.
Yeah, definitely. Yes.
For sure.
Yeah. Because it's the foundation, the one that keeps this, and then they have it as open source. Is their goal to have it open source. So don't be scared, because also I seen here Dan Becks that says the project that I am involved in is the first in its class, and I would be devastated if ROS 2 becomes commercial. Okay, Dan, like you, there are many other companies around the world, and that's why we are doing this episode here, to discuss all this and let you know that, everything can happen, okay, but it's not likely that ROS is going to be stop being open source and open.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, one of the things I love about ROS is that, you can look up if someone has done work related to what you're trying to do, and you can look up a lot of packages on GitHub. What I'm assuming is that this will continue. You can still grab work from others that do and adapt it for your own, how open source works. But then, like you said, there'll be an extra layer on top of it, maybe, that will make things easier for you and for people that aren't specializing in robotics. But then you probably have to pay for it somehow,
Yeah. Well, in this, we are speculating here, okay? The only thing that we know is that they are building a platform to simplify the way that we do applications for industrial robots. This is the only thing that we know.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's in order to clarify. Then, what you are saying, Rodrigo, you say, okay, so this platform is allowing anybody to create an application based on ROS, as Alberto says, that ROS 2 is underneath. Okay, so they want, and it's still open source, but the application on top doesn't have to be. So you can build, using Intrinsic's platform, you can build an application for ROS-based robots and win some money for this, because then you can sell this application, right? Then your point is, and then you will have to pay Intrinsic for using this application in order to develop.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Probably.
Yeah, but then I would like to say my opinion on this is that I would go one step further, is instead of charging the developer for developing those applications, the developers will be free, but the sale of this application will have a fee. So every time that you sell this application to another, so you use the Intrinsic platform as for free. You develop, you use those amazing tools that connect easily with the cloud, that allow your application also to generate a graphic interface very easily. So very clear. But then when you publish this application, you make it for the public, then you have to pay. We are talking about an app store for robots.
Right.
For robots. I think that they are going on this direction, as many other companies are trying to do at present.
Yeah, and it's already a thing that happens. Well, not like a platform-wise, but there are a lot of companies that have robots that use ROS. But they're selling you the robot,
Yeah, with ROS.
Yeah, but you just don't have to worry about the ROS behind it. Companies like
Robotnik, for example.
Robotnik or
Hello,
Near,
Robotnik friends.
Or all these companies that their brain is running with ROS, the robots' brains, but they sell the robots, right? So sort of like that, but a software version of it.
Yeah,
maybe it'll be interesting to see, because maybe it's amazing. Maybe it really does democratize robotics. Maybe it doesn't. We'll see.
We'll see. Let me see if so. Do we have any interesting question that we can or update that we have on the chat?
No, we have here Dan Bex,
Yes.
who is listening at 1:45 a.m.
Yeah, he's
nice.
interested.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, and Marcus, also a friend of
Marcus
us,
Bucco.
is saying
Hello,
that
Marcus.
he thinks that a new API is a good way since the programming is not straightforward currently in the industry, like for ABB or Fanuc ARMS.
And others. But I don't think they are thinking about APIs. Intrinsic, they are, by what they say and they repeat all the time, they make it easier. And for people who doesn't have engineering skills, they are thinking about something more graphical. And I don't remember who of you mentioned at the beginning, like building blocks that you copy paste and then you have like you mentioned this example of the website.
Yeah, Squarespace.
Squarespace,
Like
exactly.
that.
So something like that. They are thinking about that. That's a huge improvement, of course.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that would be super interesting. And I have already seen some projects that go on that line. I don't remember now the name. Some other projects. It was, I lost it now. Yeah.
Sorry, I got lost also because of the question.
Yeah.
In the chat.
But I have already seen some other projects which look super interesting in the sense that you are able to build code by using blocks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You are talking about Move AI, the company Move AI. They have designed the Move Flow, which is a kind of graphical interface for developing ROS applications.
Yeah, tons of people do that. UR does this, you know?
UR.
There, behind it, there must be like C++ or something. And up on the graphical interface, you do like, if this, then that was just like pseudocode, you know?
Yeah.
So that's the step that people are trying to go
build.
towards.
To go.
So Robots and Hobby says, when will Google acquire the construct? Well,
yes, that's a question.
that is a top secret operation. We cannot speak on it.
When they pay what we are worth, you know? So, yes, we'll see. Okay, let me see. Then what do we have so how Open Robotics is organized after the acquisition? I wanted to discuss this, and I have here a set of points and wanted to explain. So first, is to clarify, okay? We have already mentioned, but it's to clarify. And some other data that we haven't mentioned. So the foundation, we are going to call the foundation and the corporation, okay? So we don't say always RF. It's difficult for us to say all those letters. So the foundation is still the administrator of the GitHub. They will continue running the project website of ROS, Gazebo, Discourse, the answers, putting together ROSCon, and developing of the Turtlebot. The development of the Turtlebot. So this is the foundation, is still there. Then the CEO of the foundation is now Vanessa Yamson. And the CTO is Geoffrey Biggs. Then the name of Open Robotics will still be property of the foundation. But the growth of ROS will be managed in a different way since up to now. So the foundation will be in charge of that growth, but in a closer way to what of the Linux Foundation is doing. So instead of being the corporation, the one that gets the money to finance the development of ROS in the foundation, it will be the members of the foundation, the ones that finance it. And Intrinsic will be just another company, another member involved in the development of ROS, like any other could be, like yours or ours.
Right.
So the transition from the previous model to this new model, so it's going to be developed in the next months along the 2023.
Yeah, there is a couple of comments that I would like to address.
Sure, go for it.
So that, because maybe we are not giving the impression that we want to give.
Okay.
But so Harryman here is saying, I think you guys are only speculating way too much and creating panic when it's not the case. And the second one is, why not doing an interview with Intrinsic AI and clarify and put all your assumptions at rest? So first of all, I would like to say that we tried to contact both parts, both people at Intrinsic and people of the
Corporation.
Of the Open Source Robotics Corporation, but we didn't get any answer, unfortunately. It would be great, so we would love to have them here, but it's not, has not been possible at least yet. Maybe in the future, we don't know.
Maybe.
And about the other comment is that no panic, in my opinion, not at all. I mean, we are
panic at all.
we're excited about it. So I mean, all these things that we are saying, I think, are great news for the robotics community. So no panic at all, at least from our side. I don't know.
Well, we are saying, let me summarize what we have said so far. We have said that nobody has bought the intellectual property of ROS and all the other software, so that it remains open source and it will remain. So that's the thing that we have said. This. Second, the other thing is that the way that ROS is being developed cannot be maintained anymore. So this organization has to evolve into another structure, in another way of managing because of the size of the project. So it's like when a company is growing and you need to change the way you organize yourself. So you cannot keep the old methods to organize. You don't manage 100 people the same way you manage 10 people. So that's it. That's what is happening. ROS is still growing, and then has to change and it has to evolve. And that is the way that the creators and maintainers of ROS, the Open Robotics, they have decided that it could be the best because it is supported by other projects in other domains like Linux, for example, and many others. So there are some other examples of that they go into a foundation, or Mozilla, for example. Right. Or many others.
For example, I don't think Linux will ever go away now. So I think they're trying to get to that point, sort of standardize it. And I think the panic will only come when Skynet comes online or something like that. But we're just talking about it.
Okay, that is another subject for another episode.
Podcast.
Yeah, for another episode.
That sounds interesting.
Yes. So that's the only thing that we are saying that is happening. And then we are separating those things into the opinions also about what they may be interested or they are going to do, because we don't know. And we are putting some options and opinions into the table just in case that you didn't think about it. And maybe we are completely wrong. Probably we are completely wrong, but it's just thinking here between friends of the ROS community that like to share their opinions, and in some case maybe it's going to help some people.
What I think is true and aligns with what Intrinsic says in his website, I think I read, is that we are in the cusp of a big switch in robotics because of how robots are becoming more and more accessible, a lot cheaper. Sensors are getting better and faster and cheaper too. So it's sort of like 1990s for the internet, it feels like. So it's really exciting that these things are happening with us being in the community, because we'll probably see it explode like the internet did, or like the App Store, or like Apple, things like that. That
exactly
now are part of our daily lives, and we don't even think about it.
Exactly. But doing this transformation implies a risk in all of those. So we are just putting into the table the things. We are not going to hid behind the curtain the things that people doesn't want to like to hear or something. We are never going to do that, because this podcast is about discussing the reality, what is there. That's what we try, at least up to the point of our knowledge and our intelligence. Okay, so that's the point. So there is a certain risk into this, and that's what we are stating. And it depends on the strength of the ROS community and the ROS project itself, if it will be able to pass this test that is in front of it or not.
Right.
We think at least me, and I know that them
Yeah.
also, that ROS is completely strong enough to pass this and go to the next stage. We are going to the next level.
Right.
And that's what you mentioned.
Yeah.
Is when everything explodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes.
Amazon will not longer be selling books; it will be selling everything.
Yeah. For
Kinda
example.
like the analogy.
For example, that's another good analogy. Yeah. Okay. What else? What is missing here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, we have mentioned all those points here.
Yeah.
About the OSRF. So want to mention about the foundation going financed. So how it's going to be financed? Well,
Right.
there will be another model for finance that we have already mentioned because it's a foundation. So it will be the members of the foundation contributing. But so far, there are no members, let's say. Then Geoffrey Biggs, who is the new CTO of the foundation, and then he says that assets already held in reserve. Also, the foundation received proceeds from the sale of the corporation and Corporation Singapore. Aside from this, the foundation has various sources of funding, such as licensing, royalties, and grants to support its ongoing operation. We also receive financial support from companies and individuals who are beneficiaries of the foundation's project. But also said that in typical foundations, the actual development work is performed by interested contributors throughout the community, from large commercial users to individual hobbyists. The foundation also has outside contractors who maintain and improve the infrastructure, such as the build farm that the projects depend on. So one of the contributors is going to be Intrinsic.
Yeah, and I also read somewhere there among the posts that the idea is that Intrinsic is joined in the future by other companies, which also get part of the supporters, let's say, or contributors of the foundation.
Oh, okay. How
So they expect. The idea is not that the Intrinsic is like the big brother which decides everything that the little brother does, but that it's just a part of many other companies that are getting
of
to
course.
contribute into the.
Exactly. The one that decides is the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
The foundation is the one that is going to decide what is the roadmap of ROS, what is going to be addressed in this release, and what is not is going to be discarded. So maybe those bugs that you are asking for, maybe they will not be addressed in this release, and you will have to wait to the next one. And that is one of the points that the community is not happy, because if the foundation is managed, is not managed, is financed by the foundation members, then what will happen with some important things that some of the members don't have interest on having on being solved? Some problems, I don't know, some network problems that for the foundation members is not important to do that. So what is going to be, but for a large community, let's say the researchers that use ROS, it's very important because it's not alive. So that is one of the concerns, and that is a problem of the foundation-based organizations.
Mm-hmm,
So
the influence that you can exert on it.
The members,
Right.
they have, because they are putting a lot of money on this. And this is one of the concerns of the community. And we don't know what is going to happen. So let me say something that says here, Tuli Food, who says that, of course, the broader community from large corporation to bug fixing students have features that they want implemented. As with any organization that contributes to open source software, Intrinsic has an interest in seeing features it wants or needs added to ROS as a priority. This doesn't mean that any features Intrinsic is not interested in will be ignored or abandoned. As core contributors, committers, and maintainers, the corporation team at Intrinsic will continue to ensure contributors have a fair chance of seeing their feature or fix being merged into the source code. Foundation and Intrinsic both want a future where Intrinsic is just one of a large group of contributors.
Yeah, this is what I was mentioning. So I mean, I guess that the solution here is to find a balance where you can have Intrinsic can have at least for now Intrinsic can Intrinsic can put some focus into what they consider that is more urgent, and maybe between what the community or some parts of the community consider which is that is more urgent. So I guess that like in everything in life, actually the key point here is to find the proper balance.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I guess we'll wait and see.
Yeah, so we have to wait and see, and that's the only thing that we can do right now.
Right.
And we are going to see. That's the interesting part. Well, unless we die. Let's hope not.
Yeah, let's hope.
Well, I'll say we die, so everything. We don't care about anything, so it's everything. Just joking, come on. So let me see.
There is a point here that maybe some people thought that
It's interesting.
or maybe some people received like an alarm. But actually, this is something that it has been already stated. So here,
Which one?
So I don't know who said this. Maybe it was Tully, but it
Geoffrey
says
Biggs.
okay.
Geoffrey
This
Biggs.
part here, So we can expect proprietary code to be released by Intrinsic. As Geoffrey Biggs says, exactly, you can expect that the OSRC, the corporation team at Intrinsic, makes contributions, that those contributions will be copyrighted by Intrinsic. But this is not something new, since other companies have been already doing the same, like Apex AI, Willow Garage, and others.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
So don't panic.
Yes.
Don't panic. No need to panic or to get into underground shelters or
Yes. Okay, let me see. What else do we have? Any other question interesting from the?
I think we've covered most of them.
Yeah. Okay, and nothing on the chat.
Martin Nieves says that Blender has a graphic editor of nodes. I imagine that such a tool would be very interesting to standardize the nodes and interfaces of different robots. I don't know, I've never used Blender, but I think I have an idea of what you're thinking, sort of like an interactive RQT graph maybe that you can connect. It'd be interesting to look at what Blender does there, but honestly, I don't know.
Yeah, well, in this sense, that's what I mentioned before. It's this company Move AI that have created a Move Flex. Oh, now I don't remember exactly the name.
It's something with
Flex or
something with Flex.
Move Flex. Yeah. No. Okay. Okay.
doesn't come,
Well, anyway, it's a editor for nodes. It's a graphical editor of nodes, and then you connect the different nodes from the topics from one to another with lines, and it's very cool. It's very nice, and then you can debug those and see which ones they are activated when. So you can use this graphical tool.
Nice. I know there are some finance tools that do that.
Finance.
Where you can calculate finance things with graphical blocks that you can do that. So hopefully something like that, because it simplifies your life a lot, especially for developers and people that don't know how to develop.
Okay, I know about Blender. Actually, we have Miguel around here that he is a big
Blender
user.
expert, yeah.
A Blender expert, but Blender, wow, is a little bit difficult.
Yeah, there was another comment that also from Biraj Awate, who says, here it is. what would happen for developing packages? So I understand that what is going to happen if you are a ROS developer who is creating, you are developing your own packages and you want to contribute them to the ROS core. So in my opinion, well, nothing is going to happen.
Nothing changes.
Everything is going to be the same. And actually, I would say that this is a great time to start developing your ROS packages and to doing all these contributions to the ROS community, because so they for sure are going to looking in the next months to expand or the people who is helping them to develop and maintain code. So sorry. So I think that so you are going to be able to keep developing your packages and
yes, of
For
course.
sure.
and deploying them to the ROS base code and in fact I think that this is a great time to start developing more and to bring more developers that contribute to the ROS code.
Engage, yeah. Yes. In that sense, I don't think that there will be any problem. So everything continues as it has been up to now. And it's the same procedure. So you want to publish a package, then you have to accomplish certain criteria about how to publish, and then the build farm is still running there. So you submit it, and that's it. If you take care of that, then that's perfect. So
Nothing changes there.
nothing. Then Marcus is indicating that no worries, only challenges.
That's right.
And we are robotics developers, and we need to think only positive in this way. Yes. Okay. Thank you, Marcus, for the comments.
That's right.
Okay. Then let me see if we are missing anything else here that we wanted to address. And I think that we put all the main ideas there. And so that's it. I think that we can conclude this episode here. I hope that this episode was
Maybe
clarifying.
we can close it with a short phrase or very brief summary. of
Conclusion?
What we think. Yeah,
Conclusion?
short conclusion.
Go for it.
Yeah, so for instance, I think that even though there are some incognitas yet here and some questions that need to be answered and that are going to be answered in the following months, I'm really excited, and I think that this is going to be great for robotics community, and I really think that this is going to boost.
I'm excited about this news, and I think it is most likely going to be a net benefit for ROS and robotics in general. And I think this is great news, and it's just expanding, and it will continue to do so. And we'll be right here to
see what happens.
And take advantage of it for sure.
Yes, and then in my case, I would like to say that also I'm excited. At the beginning, when I heard the news, I was also scared about this because I thought that it was like the title of this podcast, right? Is Google is acquiring in the same sense as they acquire Android, and they are going to create a system that they want to control for everyone, for all the robots. But as you can see, after having analyzed the situation, what are the real facts and the implications? So I have discovered that nothing has changed. So ROS still is open source, is not controlled by Google in any means, and so far.
Intrinsic.
Intrinsic, yes,
Yeah.
but not by Google. Google is
Separate.
a separate thing. And then I think more that they are interested on going into the direction of the App Store for robots with their platform. And then we'll be here for seeing. And also, we'll be here, as you may know, we are members of the Construct, the company where we teach about ROS, and then we think that ROS is more alive than ever, and it has a bright future. And for that, if you need to train your engineers, you are planning to step into the sector of robotics, and you need that your engineers to know about ROS deeply, then you have to contact with us, the Construct. We deliver online training with specialized subjects like ROS2 introduction, fleet management, mobile manipulators, And we are specialized on that. So if you need some training for your company, for your engineers, for your team, contact the Construct. See the details on the video description. And that is all for today. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
It was awesome.
Really nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
And thank you guys for watching.
And see you in 2 weeks with another episode where we are going to be discussing about the implication of ChatGPT for robotics.
Oh, that's interesting.
Hot topic.
Hot topic. See you, guys.
All right, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have a good weekend.